Welcome to the New Mom Talk podcast, your go-to podcast for evidence-based answers to your burning questions about parenting. Join us as we dive into commonly Googled topics and hear from experts and real moms. Let's navigate parenthood together, one question at a time. Hi, everyone. So I'm really excited for today's episode because I feel like I have a celebrity on here. We have Nina Farzin, who is the founder and creator of the Oogie Bear, which I always call it the Oogie Boogie. I think it's because of a song, or maybe,
A lot of people call it Oogie Boogie.
yeah, it's because I call boogies, you know,
Yes. Yeah.
that's what you always add an E at the end of everything for
What
kids.
become a mom, right?
Yes. So we're going to talk about how to find the right aspirator, which I'm really, really stoked about because I feel like this is so important really at all times of the year, but a lot more during sixth season, which I guess if you have a toddler and preschool is all year long. So
I know, I know, right? It's that season.
yeah. So I'm going to hand it over to you. If you can tell us about yourself, tell us about your creation, and then we'll go from there.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me. And I appreciate giving this opportunity to share my story. And I hope I inspire someone but by what I have done. So correct, my name is Nina Farzin, and I am the founder and the CEO of Oogie Bear. And Oogie Bear actually started with a need for myself. And I love that we're talking about aspirators because I think what I have done is I created a whole category that nobody really used. And it was just because I was countless sleepless nights with my child who had breathing issues, and there was nothing in the market that helped her. So taking a step back, I have my doctorate in pharmacy. So I was a clinician for most of my life. Well, I guess about 20 years before I came and stumbled upon this idea that I needed for my child. So I coined myself on Shark Tank as the accidental entrepreneur, and I appreciate the fame. My 15 minutes of fame. Thank you for reliving that for me. That's awesome. But I was on the first live episode ever of Shark Tank, which was last year, 2022. And it was an incredible experience for me, but a journey that I first started. And I love being a clinician. I love what I was doing and never thought that I would actually create a product. And I coined myself as an accidental entrepreneur because that's exactly what I ended up and still am. I think a lot of people prepare an idea and they get funding and they build a business and then they're like, let's sell this. To me, it was the exact opposite. Countless sleepless nights. I was desperate to find something that worked for my child. I had a health background. My husband's a periodontist, also in the health field. And there was really nothing in the market that could help us. And we were fearful. So I can only imagine with our training, we had this issue and everything went right out the window. We didn't care. It was like holding her at night, trying to make sure to get through the night. And I was a working mom. So it was very difficult to start going to work the next day, having sleepless nights. And lo and behold, once I decided to create this product called Oogie Bear, which we'll talk more about it reinvented how we clean boogers and nose. So to your point, it's not an aspirator, but works just as well, if not better, especially for the hard mucus boogers that you have to put saline in to be able to suction out. So I hope I answered that question. I think it was too long-winded.
No, well, you know what? My next question is going to be, what is a nasal aspirator? So if you could kind of break
Sure.
that down and then also talk about how yours is slightly different from that.
So we do have a nasal aspirator now. So I'm now developing more products, but a nasal aspirator is basically a device that can suction out mucus or boogers. It can't really suction out the hard stuff, so you have to put saline in there and be able to suction out. So any kind of device, there's so many different kinds on the market. There's the handheld aspirators, and then there's the mouth pipetting, and all different various sizes and shapes and colors, right? So that did not work for me. My daughter had the hard mucus. She was stuffed up, and I did not want to use any kind of saline to water it down to be able to slurp it up. And it just didn't work for us. And that's when my aha moment came where I was like, okay, That's not what we need. And why don't they have this in the market? And I created a product called Oogie Bear. My company's called Oogie Bear. And it's basically, here it is in my hand right now. And for
We
your
have it.
listeners, yeah, I hope it works for you. For your listeners, it's got like a little fingernail kind of tip almost, and it's honestly, there's so much thought put into this little product that it does so much. It works for your ears and it works for your nose, and we know pediatricians don't want you to stick anything in the nose and ears, right? But we know you're going to, right? So here's a product that the Bear Head's not just cute, it's got the baby's point of view, so you can approach baby, they think it's like a little toy, but really it's a powerful tool, and then you can go into the nose and clean out what you need quickly in and out, and the Bear Head prevents it from going in too far. So my child, who was very active, she would not sit still for me, especially in the middle of the night when she was waking up. Sometimes I could use this while she was sleeping and be able to clean it out really quickly. So not intended for you to dig in there, but to be used. And so I was talking to about aspirators. And so this is different in that it can be used for the slip. I hate this is going to be such a gross topic. I am so sorry if
We're
anyone is.
moms.
Yeah, I know, right? We embrace that. But the gooey, mucusy kind of boogers and hard boogers, right? But for the really watery ones, an aspirator does come in handy because you want to slurp that up. And we have our aspirator, again, has a little bear head where you form a seal. And we're a solution-based company now. So we take all the problems that we see on the market and we try to address it. So that's basically what an aspirator does. It really is depending on. So when I came out with this product, everything on the market addressed the very slurpy, watery type of mucus. There was nothing that had any help, or it wouldn't provide any assistance in this hard mucusy boogers or mucus. So my product was invented out of need for that. And I hope that it helps people.
Well, with that, let's talk about the safety, right? Because you kind of mentioned like pediatricians don't want you to stick anything in your infant or baby's nose or ears. But is it safe? I mean, you mentioned like yes, you have fingernails going in there. If there's like a hard booger that's stuck, like you need
So
something to scrape it off, right?
Exactly. So there's dual use with this product. You could actually use it for baby's ears, and the size of this tip is very important. So because of our success of this product, we have a ton of copycatters. And it really puts the fear in life in me sometimes when I'm like, oh my God, yes, I disrupt this category. This is a revolutionary product, but it's doing so well. It looks so simple. Here are the all the copycats, right? And they have no intention. They just see a product with a little tip and they're just basically copying it. We've got big companies all the way to little companies copying us, and we're constantly playing whack-a-mole with them. What they don't have is we have a patented scoop on one end, almost like a fingernail hook, because we don't want you going in there with this little tip needs to be hard enough and soft enough that you're not hurting baby, but hard enough to be able to go in, do its job quickly, and come out. So if you're in there digging with a very soft tip, you're actually hurting the membrane in there. So you don't want to do that. And a lot of the products out there don't recognize that. And they're like, hey, we're softer. Well, yeah, it's not working though. And you might be harming a child. Or the tip might be too long. And that could also help, especially in the tympanic membrane for the ears. You don't want this to be too long. The bear head, the reason why we've got bears is just because it looks like a bear, and that's why we're called Oogie Bear, actually. But we didn't choose a bear because, I mean, I do love bears, but it wasn't intentional for that. It just because the amount of distance for the ears of that bear head allows you to, for the tool to stop before it can go in insert it too far. So now on the market, you'll see owls, you see all these different types of animals. Well, the owl looks like a triangle. You could totally put the whole thing up a baby's nose. So I want parents, if I can take this moment, I want parents to really educate themselves and look at what the products have to offer so that they are getting something that is truly safe for their babies. And I know parents are so smart nowadays that they know how to do that research. So I just encourage everyone to do that. So in terms of safety, we really want to be cautious of what we're sticking in there and the length of the tip and the quality of tips, like we're latex free, PVC free, PABA free, etc.
And then what about for nasal aspirators? Are they safe? Are there certain ones that maybe they should be
Great question.
Gosh,
You see, we still have the bear head on all of our products. We have the bear head because it prevents it from going like our teethers and toothbrush, prevents it from gagging for a baby. So it's all prevention of it being stuck too far, especially if baby's operating it themselves, like our teethers and toothbrush. But for the aspirator, you definitely want to be careful that there's no mold growth. I think that traditional aspirators that are given to you from hospitals, you can't open them apart. Like mine comes apart. So again, we're solution based. We know what the problems are. So if you could see right now, I'm showing you, and for your listeners, the whole, it comes into three parts. You open it up and you can wash it. You can see that there's no mold in there. And that's probably the most important component of these traditional aspirators that we have changed. There are other mechanisms of aspirators. There's mouth pipetting, and there's electronic versions of it. And it really, at the end of the day, I want parents to choose what's best for them. Everybody has a different preference, and some people like one product the other. What I would tell you is the mouth pipetting, I would be concerned, you said what the safety issues, is cross-contamination. Those filters that are available, they're not going to do anything. You can see through them, right? I mean, viruses, as we know, we've learned from COVID, viruses are extremely small. Bacteria is really small. So these particles are going to go back and forth. So if you have a cold, baby's going to end up having a cold. If baby has a cold, you're going to end up having a cold. So you got to be very careful with the mouth pipetting, although they have a very strong suction. Some people prefer that, and it's great. However, I would think for my child, that suction was just too powerful. It was just so powerful, it was hurting her. So I would caution, I guess, say, be a little cautious on the strength of the suction, and not necessarily you removing the mucus, the baby's just going to automatically breathe, right? Because if they've got a cold, it's going to come right back down.
yeah.
So just, get baby to be comfortable. And at the end of the day, just use some caution in determining, is this really hurting the baby? Am I doing anything other than making myself feel better that I'm removing all this mucus just right now, right? It's about them being able to breathe better and easier. And then, of course, there's the electronic ones that are in the market. They're battery operated. They're very, very expensive. Make sure that they're charged, because if you need it at that moment and they're not charged, or the battery's not working, you're going to have issues. And they're really loud. So in the middle of the night, you're operating a device that's got some noise. And, if you are okay with that, then it's a great product. All of these products work, but it depends on what you're trying to do, right? So my products, I could tell you from my point of view, I tried to solve the issues that I had, which was keeping it hygienic, keeping it easy, and just very natural, because, we've had these issues forever. We shouldn't be complicating them.
Are you ready to dive deep into the ebbs and flows of motherhood, from preconception to postpartum and everything in between? Hi, I'm Hannah Gill, VBAC mom, doula, birth educator, and host of Motherhood Flow. Join me as we explore empowering birth stories, personal insights, and expert interviews covering topics like VBAC preparation, pregnancy wellness, and navigating the joys and challenges of motherhood. Whether you're preparing for your own journey of becoming a mom, wanting to learn more about VBAC, or you're looking for support and inspiration along the way, Motherhood Flow has you covered. This is your space to walk through birth and motherhood on your terms, ensuring you're not just going with the flow, but being an active participant in your own story. Subscribe to Motherhood Flow now on your favorite podcast platform.
Yeah. So with picking an aspirator, what are some things to consider? Like when we were, you have your whole baby registry, we definitely went with the Oogie Boogie, but you kind of made a very valid point. Like it solves one problem, it doesn't solve the problem of the wet, watery, runny nose, right? That's either a tissue or an alternative. And we went with an electric one, and we love that option. But my son is also a toddler. So what should somebody that has a newborn or an infant consider?
So we have a combination of products. It's called our Bear Pair because it's got the aspirator and the booger tool together. Remember, we were the first to market with the booger tool. So we wanted to address it. Yeah, we know that there's the wet mucus that you have to deal with, right? So we came up with a product that would address both. And our aspirator, my husband always got stuck with actually using the aspirator. And so it fits in in a palm of dad's hand. It's big enough. And I think a lot of the aspirators that are on the market, they just don't have enough volume to be able to create that suction. And ours does. Ours definitely is big enough to fill the full hand. And so it should give you that suction power. Mouth pipetting could be more, it could be stronger. And if you desire to get all that mucus out, I think it's more making you feel better than actually the child, because it really hurts when you pull that, mucus out with that suction power. Because remember, you have that control, which could be great, right? Sometimes it might be. I just felt that with what we were dealing with and the level of congestion, that's probably all you need. With a nice steam bath, making sure that the nasal cavity is clean. And baby's actually ultimately comfortably sleeping, right? So you just have to really figure out what's working for you. And I always say, as far as the choice, I mean, you want it to be effective, you want it to be easy to use, you want it to have adequate suction, and most importantly, you want it to be clean, hygienically clean, meaning there's no buildup of bacteria, mold, transmission of any kind of bacterial mold between mom and dad, or mom and baby, or whoever is administrating that.
Then my next question kind of brings me to this. Is a manual one or an electric one better, or is it more on like personal preference and the age of the baby?
I think manual has been around forever, right? And there were some complications with the manual versions because you can't open them up. So there was some concern with mold. So in that sense, those manual products, I would be cautious, because once you bring that aspirator home, you don't know what's going on in the inside. Okay, so you want an aspirator that comes apart. I personally think I would want something that's very easy. And I feel like the electronic ones, we're just complicating things. Like, really, do you really need an electronic one? Sometimes the suction on that is not that great either. So I think some of the solutions that we found for our aspirator is the volume of suction. So if you have that volume of suction, and we feel like our aspirator does, maybe that'll help you. If you want more suction than that, then, that's when I would look at other products that maybe have mouth pipetting. But again, for me, it was something that I didn't want my daughter to go through. And I was scared. I know too much about, cross-contamination. And, I didn't want to, if I was sick, I didn't want to transmit that to my daughter and vice versa. So you just have to be cautious. And I think at the end of the day, all of them will get the job done, but which one works the most effective for you?
Yeah, very good points. Because you kind of also mentioned this, like that personal preference. Like I love, for us, the nasal aspirator, the electric one works, but we also have buy-in from my son where he'll use it himself. I think it'd be hard for him to be convinced to use the manual one or to figure it out. He likes,
I would not recommend that for sure. And I don't know if they would do it correctly, but our product is pretty cute. So babies do
yeah.
love it. We don't recommend you giving to them to use it, but it softens kind of the approach that, oh, okay, mom has a toy in her hand, and then maybe they can suction and use the suction, right? And I feel like it has enough volume there that you could help baby, but I think there's good and bad with all. I would personally say keep it as easy as possible. You don't need all the battery operated stuff. You should use both of them and see which one actually works better for you. But some of the battery operated ones are extremely expensive. So I would hate for you to spend that money and then not have it, I guess, as preferred for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, our first round with our first electric one, it didn't work for too long. So we returned that one.
See,
Definitely pricier than the second option that we went with. But the manual one that we had gotten was the only one from the hospital. And the plastic or the rubber on it is just so hard. It's really hard to really get that to squeeze to really suction. So you made a very valid point on that.
yeah. And this is so soft. Like, I have my aspirator in my hand. It is so soft. It's all food grade silicone. It's PVC free, PABA free, latex free. Like, there's a lot of quality here. I would love to send you my aspirator and you tell me what you think. That would be amazing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I can't really say none of them. I think all the products will work. It depends on varying degrees and how aggressive you want to be.
Well, let's talk about the disadvantages. There's always advantages, but there's also always disadvantages. So, what are the not so great things about each option when it comes to
I think I addressed that
baby?
already, but I'll go through it again. I think basically, mold is the number one concern of those hospital type aspirators that cannot open up. As a matter of fact, interesting fact, those aspirators were not meant for the nose; they were meant for the mouth. So in case the baby's aspirating, right? So
Oh,
to the nose because we all have that problem. Baby's going to get stuffed up, and we want something to work. And so that is a great option, but because you can't open it and you don't know what's going on in the inside, I would say use it from the hospital, bring it home, maybe use it a couple times, and that's it. Throw it out. You got to keep switching that. So that would be costly if you're constantly switching that out, right? The mouth pipetting I talked about, the filters, I mean, that's so expensive. You're constantly getting filters and they're not doing anything. I mean, really, they're not doing anything. You can see through them. If you can see through them, believe me, the virus and bacteria are dancing through it. So I would caution you on that. Okay. That is something that would be a concern. And then I think maybe they're even there perhaps so that you don't suck in the mucus. I'm not sure. I'm actually grateful that it's so gross because that's why I'm in business. I could never do that. And
I could not either. I see that it's a very popular option. And I'm like,
I, I know I feel so bad because I feel like such great parents out there. And I'm like, I question myself, why couldn't I do like I was just so gross. I couldn't do it, but I'm so grateful because I have a business around not being able to do that. So
Well, and
um
it's funny when I think about what grosses me out more, like anytime I have to clean that nasal aspirator, I'm like, oh, the boogers are so gross. I would much rather handle a dirty diaper.
oh my, yeah, I get you on that. I think I think both are pretty gross.
Yes.
At least the fact that you're getting relief for your baby is just such a win, I think. But again, my background allowed me to know a little bit more about that, the filters and just the content. So that just didn't work for me. I know a lot of people that love it. And if that works for you, I'm so happy. So I think that's great. And then we talked about the battery operated versions where you need to replace batteries. It's loud. Sometimes the suction is not that great. Maybe you have to go through two or three of them before you realize there's one that you like. And I think keeping it simple really is the key. If you find something that works, I would actually trust the reviews. I love Amazon for that. There's a lot of reviews there. You know what parents have done, and then you can gauge, what you would prefer.
I like that. That is true. There are always a lot of reviews and pictures. So you see a lot of pictures of parents posting things of whether something came as it was described or not. Um,
Right.
my last question, do you have any other tips, suggestions, or recommendations?
I think my mission as a result of you developing this product, I'm understanding the importance of nose breathing. And that is my mission of bringing parents the awareness of the importance of nose breathing. And people are like, what are you talking about? Everybody breathes fine and I'm breathing, my baby's breathing. Like, what the heck are you talking about? But I think when you are nursing or you're cleaning out baby's nose, if the baby is keeping their mouth open, you want to make sure that you're aware of closing their mouth because there's so much wellness that comes with that. Being a good nose breather allows them to have proper cognition function. They grow up healthier. My husband's a periodontist, and it's amazing how our worlds have kind of like come together because that's what he does, palate expansions. He does a lot of like kind of teaching parents the importance of nose breathing. And I'm grateful for Shark Tank because they allowed us to talk about this because it's such a big topic and so hard to, like I said, you talk about nose breathing, people are like, well, I'm fine. But if you remember any of the cartoons that we used to watch growing up, the one that just always did like was not the smart one was the one that always had their mouth open. And I never realized that until now. And so the importance of just closing baby's mouth, making sure they're breathing through their nose. If they're clogged, making sure you're cleaning the nose so that they can breathe easier. Of course, there are other conditions like if they have a cold or RSV, God forbid, any of that stuff. You can kind of work with them until they get better, but just really being aware that the baby's breathing through the nose is very important.
Well, and that's always the hardest part when baby can't breathe, right? Like it just breaks your heart because they don't know how to blow, and sometimes the options that you have aren't working or whatever it may be. So you are eager to find any sort of solution and will try anything out there as long as it's safe for baby or that you've read. So yeah.
Absolutely. I had we had a live meeting in a community once, and one of the moms like, my baby just does not prefer to breathe through the nose. And I'm like, well, are there any issues? Are there any allergies? That's when you start looking and working with your pediatrician to understand what's going on. And the funny thing is, I was like, well, are you nursing? Yes, I'm nursing. And I'm like, well, he's nose breathing because you can't nurse if they can't breathe through the nose, right?
Yeah.
It's a great way of picking up, oh, my baby can. Why isn't he or she breathing through the nose when I'm not nursing? And that's when I just want people to be aware of that and then talk to your pediatrician and just figure out the reason behind. And then there's so many tools out in the market. I would love that our tools work for the parents out there, but I could totally understand, like, there's so many products out there. Use what's best and get your baby to be the best nose breather from day one. Actually, it would even work for us, even at an older age, if you become better a nose breather, that'll even help you. So start with mom and then the baby.
Yeah, such great points. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All of this will be linked in the show notes. So anyone that is curious or interested in learning more about all of your available products can go through there. But I feel like so many moms know about the Oogie Bear. I keep wanting to call it the Oogie Boogie.
It's fun. I think we even call it the Oogie Boogie. A lot of people are trying to calling it Oogie Boogie, which I love. I think it's adorable. Maybe we should
Yeah.
give the name to Oogie Boogie.
If you can, why not, right?
Yeah. Actually, Barbara, the shark that we landed a deal with, she calls it the Oogie Boogie. So maybe that's where it started.
There you go. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and chatting with us.
It was a pleasure, and I appreciate so much that you allowed me to share my story and our products on your show. So thank you.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for our next episode. You can find us on Instagram for more updates and tips. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and give us a review if you like us.